here, right now, right 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 here, right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Ian Jacklin.
Sorry about that.
Ian. Sorry about that, Ian. Had a little voice modulator on there. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ian Jacklin, the stage is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate it. I have an excellent show tonight. I was so lucky to get Brian Scott Peskin on my show. He was my mentor's guy that he went to learn about how to cure cancer, because Otto Warburg figured all this out back in the early 1900s. And Brian wrote a book about it called, it's right here, it's one of my oldest books I've had, The Hidden Story of Cancer. And you're not going to believe it. It's amazing. There's so many things in here. The big thing right now is cannabis hemp oil curing cancer. Don't forget about this, folks. I was helping people cure cancer for 17 years, thanks to this kind of science, way before the cannabis hemp oil. So that's just another weapon to your arsenal. This is the key, is diet, nutrition. Brian Scott Peskin, welcome, my friend.
My pleasure.
Good. Man, you got a nice office there. You got more books than I got VHS tapes.
Writing a new one, too. It's called the PEO, for Parent Essential Oils Solution. It's with Dr. Robert Rowan. He's a raw foods vegan and the editor-in-chief of Second Opinion newsletter. Very, very big medical journal. So he's vetted my work for 5 years, and now he's on board.
Yeah, this is huge news. Like, as if this wasn't big enough, the whole EFA, Dr. Warburg, Otto Warburg thing. But
Yes.
And now you're jumping on this. So where should we start? Do you wanna break it down from here and then come into this new stuff?
Sure. It's the same stuff with a new, not a new slant, but in just a different format. This one is focusing exclusively on cancer, hidden story of cancer, and it's very important to you and your followers. PEO Solution takes it even a step further and applies it to everything from sports medicine to martial arts to beauty, almost everything, because it's fundamental. So what very few people talk about is what causes cancer. This is what got me. Hundreds of causes, they'll say, and blah, 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 blah. War on cancer, basically gotten absolutely nowhere. I'm in Houston, Texas. We have the world's largest cancer center, MD Anderson. It's right in my backyard. Abysmal success rate. Absolutely abysmal. The oncologists there do not know the name Otto Warburg, and this is why none of their new drugs work. The latest one, I was in Germany with a lecture, and a doctor was over there. He goes, I was just at the National Cancer thing in America, and the big hoopla was an extra week of life if you had cancer with a drug. And it was unbelievable. If this is the best you guys can do, it is, because they're not using Warburg's discovery. So in a nutshell, there's one prime cause of cancer: lack of cellular oxygen. Not oxygen in the bloodstream, cellular oxygen. Now, there's hundreds of secondary causes, but they all have to impact cellular oxygen. So Warburg knew this. It was proven in America in 1953, 1955 by medical scientists, MDs, PhDs here. They deprived heart cells of oxygen over a 2-year period. Even intermittently, they became cancerous. The same cells that were not oxygen deprived never turned cancerous. Then they proved that the low oxygen in a brilliant experiment with mice in 1955. So they absolutely proved it, but back then no one knew how the heck do I oxygenate a cell, and that was my discovery. The parent omega-6, cannabis oil, hemp oil has that in it, is the cell membrane's oxygenator. So the cell gets oxygen two ways. Oxygen transfers from the bloodstream into the cell, and everybody has enough oxygen in the bloodstream, unless they're diseased. So you can get a pulse oximeter. This is what you get at your surgeon's office or any surgery. Put your finger on it, put some infrared light into there, and it's about 90, anywhere between 92, 96, 98% oxygen saturation. You're fine. That's everybody, unless you have a disease, like I said. So the question is, why is the cell not getting the oxygen? The parent omega-6 in that cell membrane can disassociate, meaning the oxygen can come out of the omega-6 oil. Now, every cell membrane is 50% fat, 50% protein. There's almost no carbohydrate in there. Out of the 50% fat, about half is saturated fat, and 25 to 33% is unsaturated fat. That is the parent essential oils, parent omega-6, parent omega-3. Those are the only two essential fats your body can't make. So fish oil, anybody listening, throw that in the trash. That is a derivative. It's not essential. Your body makes it as needed. I'll talk about that later. I've published journal articles about that in 2013, destroying it, and this is why it fails. So when you have the right omega-6, omega-3 combination in the cell membrane, it's fully oxygenated, you're not going to get cancer. And now the big thing, and this is what changed everything in 2009, is inflammation. Everything is inflammation, including one of the causes of cancer. This is Dr. Weinberg had this, and he's a professor at MIT. He was the originator of the oncogene. It's not genetic. There is no oncogene giving you cancer. That is garbage that has been changed, but the average person hasn't heard it. The average physician hasn't heard it. It's all inflammation, and the omega-6 oils allow what's called PGE1. That's the ultimate anti-inflammatory. Now, the reason we're deficient in it, you have to ask yourself, why the heck are we deficient in this stuff, is because of the food processing. So all the oils you get in the commercial supermarket, Safeway, Kroger, whatever you have, I'm in Houston, we have them all, but any commercial supermarket, the oil is all processed. Why? So it doesn't go bad. That oil can sit on the shelf for years. And that's a good thing, except we need the oxygen transfer in the cell. And the oxygen transfer is the reason the oil is going bad. So if you put margarine, for example, out in your garage, come back a year later, no fungus, no mold, no bacteria, no animal will have touched it. It's called a plastic food. And if we get this in the cell membrane, and you do from eating processed oils, all the processed food has it, it goes into your tissue as a percentage of what you eat. So if I'm eating 20% adulterated oils, I have 20% screwed up in the cell membrane. You get the 30%, 35% oxygen deficit intermittently over a long period of time will give you cancer because it's cumulative. And it can be in any tissue and any cell membrane anywhere. So everybody, even the finest restaurants, Ian, are using adulterated oils. Unless it's organic, it is adulterated. And all of them are using this stuff. Number one, it's cheap. They use extenders, anything to keep using that oil. And it's in all baked goods. It's in all fried goods. It's in all cooked goods. It's just ubiquitous. So you need to get organic oils. And I like a blend of about 2 to 1 parent omega-6 to parent omega-3 with some GLA in it. And GLA is the direct precursor of this anti-inflammatory, I said, PGE1. That's what makes it so efficient. And that is what I spend 90% of my waking time, day in and day out, looking at. And now it's absolutely provable. Everything is tied to the adulterated oils. The In-Story of Cancer has all this. And now with PEO Solution, I've added, right up to 2013 with the journal articles like fish oil fails and they can't figure out why. It's because there's no parent omega-6, no parent omega-3 in it. It's all derivatives. And your body makes very, very, very little. So I look at physiology. People want to know what my background is. I'm an electrical engineer from MIT. You go, what the heck does electrical engineering have to do, with medicine? Well, number one, everything's electrical in your body. Everything goes by this, so it does a lot. But I brought the concepts. The input is what you're eating. The system is your body. and the output is your disease state of health, how fat you are, how thin you are. So I look at it as an engineer looks at it, and I'm all about cause effect. Associations mean absolutely nothing to me. They may get my interest, my attention, but if I do this, it has to give me that output. If I design a TV to work on 120 volts AC, it can't blow up in my face every fifth time. Now, the medical profession, that would be a great result. Every fifth time, that's not bad because that's 80% working okay. That's only blowing up 20%. You'd be a trillionaire. That's like with statins. They have a 1% success rate. To me, that's a 99% failure rate. And they're a $15 trillion or billion dollar a year industry. So I'm about natural foods, just like you said in the beginning. And the oils are key. That is number one by a factor of 1,000 compared to anything else you're doing.
Thank you. That's what Dr. Bernardo always said, and he really harped on that. No official. It's got to be vegan source. And he always offered the same ones that you do, which is called Yes, FYI out there, anybody. Yes is a good brand, and neither one of us make money on it. It's just that's one of the better ones. But stick to the vegan source of the oils, right?
Yes, it's plant-based, organic, and I like a blend of 4 or 5 oils so that minimizes the sensitivity issue anybody can have. A lot of people are sensitive to one specific oil, so if you have 4 or 5 in there, it minimizes any sensitivity issue, and you need a GLA-containing oil. I like evening primrose. That's what I recommend to people that want to follow my advice.
Yeah.
I like it better than hemp. The problem I have with hemp cannabis is it doesn't have a culinary history anywhere in the world, anywhere. There's isolated uses of it, but I have to recommend things that have been around for hundreds of years. So evening primrose oil is edible. Flax oil is edible. Sunflower oil, safflower oil, pumpkin oil, coconut oil. Those are all edible with hundreds of years history. So I can't say anything with, I don't know. So my comment would be, if you want to try something else, as long as it has the right ratio, the cannabis is a little high in the omega-6. So I like about 2, 2.25, 2.5 to 1. That's more like 3, maybe 3.3 to 1. So it's a little too heavy, my opinion of it. But it's a good step in the right direction. So if people hit my website, they could see what's needed with the oils and the ratios.
Yeah, exactly. And the cannabis hemp oil, that's sort of a thing on its own. The THC does its own thing. It's magic. It's like frankincense oil. It's another oil that is just so magical. They don't even know what it does yet. They know it's good for you. But the Yes EFAs or this concoction you're talking about is definitely probably the best. And I think anybody with cancer, if you're taking whatever you're taking, I don't care if it's chemo or cannabis, I would also be taking these EFAs, wouldn't you?
Yes, they are the ultimate thing to take. Adjunctive therapy with chemotherapy or radiation. What everybody needs to know with radiation, the radiation causes more cancer. The radiation typically kills 90% good cells, 95, 99%. There was a big journal article just came out this year, as a matter of fact, that you increase the cancer stem cell, which is the real cancer cell, by a factor of 30 after radiation. So what you've done is you've wiped out the good cells, the ones that's not a solid cancer. A solid cancer means it's 100% malignant. Typically cells until the later stages, or a certain amount of them, are combinations. They're highly malignant cells and medium. Now, what the heck does that even mean? A typical cell breathes oxygen. It's called cellular respiration, just like we do. There's 2 ways the body can get energy. It can get it using oxygen, that's in the mitochondria. It can get it in the cytoplasm, which is the inside of the cell, from glucose, from sugar. That is getting energy like a yeast does. So it can get energy very inefficiently. It's about 1/20th as efficient. But it's quick, it's easy, and it's no intelligence. So this is why a cancer cell keeps just growing. That's what they'll always say the defining aspect of a cancer cell is. They're wrong. It's not that it just grows uncontrollably. That's a result of its lack of intelligence. The defining issue of a cancer cell is its respiration is highly impacted, so it can't use oxygen. It has to run on sugar. So it's inefficient and it becomes dumb. And what cancer really is, Ian, is a short-term time frame so you don't die. Remember, it's cellular lack of oxygen. So what can happen? Well, if I smothered you, you're dead. So the body has two things it can do. It can kill the cell. It can kill the tissue right away. Stop your heart, stop your kidney, stop your lungs. Immediately, you're dead. Or it can allow it to revert back to just existing and hope you fix the problem. The problem is nature never intended humans would be so stupid as to be adulterating the one thing in every one of your 100 trillion cells has these oils. 100 trillion cells, a minimum, a quarter to a third is made of these oils, and we're screwing them all up. So cancer is created. The amount of, quote, genetic cancer would be 0.0001%, which is next to nobody. It's the 1 in a million, literally, or 1 in 100,000. Everybody else, you created it unknowingly. It's not your fault, but the solution is here. And that's the new book, PEO Solution. And that's these parent essential oils. So I term parent omega-6 and parent omega-3 the only two essential oils that your body can't make. PEOs. So that is what everybody needs to remember. PEOs, not EFAs, because they use the term wrong. They will call fish oil DHA, EPA, EFAs, and that is wrong. So I'm one of the biggest proponents of fixing the terminology in the journal articles with parent essential oils so it's 100% clear. And the results are absolutely incredible. From oncology surgeons to heart surgeons, what a lot of cancer victims need to know is heart disease is right around the corner. It kills about 20% of the people that have cancer because it impacts the whole system. Your blood flow, your vascular system gets highly impacted too with the lack of cellular oxygen. That is the same reason you get a heart attack. So cancer and heart disease are tied together, and the cholesterol is the common link, and that transports the PEOs. So the cholesterol is magnetized. Just picture a magnet, two of them. One's the parent essential oils and one's cholesterol. So cholesterol is moving the PEOs into the tissue. Statins came along going, we're going to minimize cholesterol. What happens if you minimize cholesterol? You minimize the PEOs. Now, the good thing is you minimize the adulterated ones, but you've also minimized the good ones. And that's why people taking statins have a higher rate of heart disease, actually, and a higher rate of cancer. And this gets hushed up.
Yeah, no, those statins are just horrible. I can't even believe they're still around, let alone the chemo and everything else. I wanted to bring up the thing that I liked about this book, and when I was reading it, because I've always been a bodybuilder, kickboxer kind of guy. So, you know, every now and again I would give myself a rest, and I might take a whole month off, not work out. So that means the first 2 weeks of training, and any other professional athletes or even weekend warriors know what I'm talking about. If you haven't worked out in a while and you work out pretty hard the first day, you can't move the next day. You're so tight, you're full of lactic acid, and you feel like you're gonna die. I did this for decades, and then finally I read your book, and I went on the EFAs a week or so before I started lifting.
Yeah.
Lifted, no pain at all, no stiffness at all. Unbelievable. You wrote about that experiment in your book. Yeah. I did it, and it's right.
Well, Dr. Cappellino talks about it too with his athletes. He's in Italy, and he's the team sports physician. And your threshold of the acid burn goes way, way up. So you can do hardcore lifting. Your muscle just fails. You don't get the burn. You have 25% more endurance. You have 25% faster recuperation. And it is unbelievable. So in PEO Solution, the new one, there's a whole chapter on sports medicine.
Wow. But that's how you explain it. Right. And that's how that whole little scenario I just described, that's also how you explain how the cells become cancerous, right? Isn't there some process that...
The oxygen deprivation, you have cells that it's called fermentation, like a yeast. Right. You give it heat, you give it sugar. An output is lactic acid. So that's a byproduct of called glycolysis. It's not respiration. Respiration doesn't have that. when you use the oxygen. But if you're using the dumb way, because the cell can't do it, and bodybuilding and under intense physical endurance, your muscles initially use glucose because it's fast. Turns over to respiration after a couple of minutes, but initially it's that, and that's why you get that lactic acid burn. And this is why the worse the cancer level is, the lower the pH of the blood and the saliva are, and that is the measure of how aggressive the cancer is. And Dr. Bernardo would always do that. So there's a few things you can do to impede that. Lemon juice is one thing you can take. Now, even though that's acidic, there's other components. Once you eat it, it becomes alkaline, because that always bugged me till I got with a PhD in chemistry and said, how the heck can this be? It's an acid. There's something else, I forget what it is because I'm not a chemist, but that makes it alkaline. Yep. So if you can alkaline your body, you make the cancer reaction much harder to perceive. Now, you're not going to change your pH by what you eat. I want to make this very clear to everybody because there's all kinds of diets and stuff. Your blood stays pH 7.35 to 7.45 regardless of what you do. It's called the bicarbonate system. It's the acid-base system. Nature would never be so stupid to allow us to control that. Doesn't matter what you eat, your kidneys can take care of maintaining the acid base. The only time you have to watch that is if you have cancer. And if you take these oils, I don't know how you'd get it. Because people ask me, is there anything else I could do? There is. I also like a product called Essiac. Now that's an old one. It is the best blood purifier I've ever seen. It's another anti-inflammatory. It soothes everything. And I added cat's claw to it. So there's formulations for companies I work with that have cat's claw. It's the best upper respiratory conditioner you've ever seen. So Essiac is a phenomenal daily detoxifier. I take it every day myself because unless you're a raw foods vegan, you are eating some junk. And this is like a chelator on a daily basis. It is unbelievable. Non-stimulating, non-irritating. And I would always go to the health stores in Houston early on. It's like 20 years ago. And I'd always see people from MD Anderson with their drip bags from chemo. And I'd play dumb. They'd be buying product that I had consulted for. I'd go, why are you getting that? They go, oh, because, I'm taking chemo and radiation. I don't have any of the side effects. My hair's still here. My energy's here. I said, really? And I'd see another one and another one and another. Very, very rewarding. And it's one heck of a product. But if you're doing the detoxifier with an Essiac concept formulation and the PEOs, I do not know how you could get cancer unless you walk through a radiation field or poison yourself or ate something radioactive. I mean, there's no causal mechanism of getting the oxygen deprivation or getting the inflammation. And if you take away oxygen deprivation and inflammation, you're not getting a heart attack, you're not getting cancer. So the two killers, the top killers in America, it's over. And the beauty effects are unbelievable. Your skin becomes soft like you wouldn't believe. Your fingernails become like a mirrored glass because there's no omega-3 in the skin. It's all parent omega-6.
Well, I got to tell you, remember my co-host Cynthia Brooks? Jason,
yes.
She's in love with you, bro. I mean, she's so disappointed she couldn't come on tonight but I'm going to probably beg of you to come on our telephone show again soon because she wants to talk to you. But she's got the SCFAs and she's showing off her nails to me and her hair, and she's so happy with that.
It's a vasodilator, so it opens up the arteries naturally. There's nothing forced here. This is what your body does on its own. And when things work, nature is pretty damn good. My thing is, I am amazed how long and how healthy people are given that we're doing everything wrong. Now, it's unknowingly, and the problem is the, quote, solution to our health problems are typically the cause of the problem. This is how backwards we are. It's a very unfortunate state of affairs today. And this is why the bulk of my time is spent with physicians, MDs, really giving them the state-of-the-art science. And they just love it because they really want to do the right thing, Most of them are misled themselves. So it's the blind leading the blind, honestly. And
Really?
yes,
You found MDs to listen to you? Because I find as soon as you give them any truth, they're like, I don't want to know because that means I'm a murderer.
they come to me. I do a lot of journal articles, and I don't go to anybody because I don't try and convert anybody. So the physicians I get go, I read your article, fish oil or whatever I was doing didn't work. You've answered every question and every metabolic pathway and physiology. It's bulletproof. So I understand why my method didn't work and why this does work, and then they're on board. So the answer is yes. Actually, PEO solution is the dedication is for America's physicians. And every chapter has a dedication of how important the chapter is by a physician. There's about 25 accolades by 98% are physicians. I think there's 2 DCs, chiropractors, which are very good, but the rest are MD or PhD. There's never been a book with this kind of accolades. Yeah, I've got a very, very big following of physicians around the world because what I tell is based on medical science, and it's the science, Ian, that they haven't seen. So the mandate of PEO solution is giving physicians the 21st century medical science they haven't seen elsewhere. And it's not their fault if they haven't seen it. For example, with fish oil, it doesn't work. It's still the #1 supplement in America. The first question you would ask is, how much DHA and EPA does the brain use? Because the brain is the #1 depository, along with the eyes and nervous system, of DHA, EPA. Most other tissues have none of it. Nobody's ever asked that. The answer is about 7 milligrams. So if anybody out there is taking fish oil, look and see the dosage you're taking of the DHA plus EPA and compare that to 7 milligrams. You're getting overdosed by a factor of 20 to 500. This is the overdose on a daily basis of fish oil. 20 to 500 times overdose. Now, if you want to know what that does, imagine, don't do it, taking 2,500 aspirin.
Right.
You can take 2, you'll be okay. Take 20, you're dead. This is what they're doing with fish oil on a daily basis in America. So this is why I give the physicians the 21st century science, because when they see this, they get sick. They don't want to hurt people. I've got one doctor, he wrote a 4-page dedication, and it starts, I have a confession to make. He was recommending fish oil, massive doses. He thought he was doing good. So he wrote a 4-page, basically an apology, which is unbelievable. So this is the book of the 21st century. So I hope people will look at my website. It's my name, Brian Peskin, B as in boy, R-I-A-N, P as in park, ESKIN.com. There's all kinds of papers there. There's a coast-to-coast radio interview that gives a good summary of this. And they'll see about PEO solution too, but you don't have to spend a penny. You can read and get all of these papers for nothing, but you owe it to yourself. If you really care about health, and if you don't look at what I have on this site, you're in the dark.
Yeah, and I can be a witness that, like I said, Dr. Bernardo, who cured more people than anybody I know, the star of my
It was
first.
phenomenal.
Yeah, he just followed your science basically.
The PEOs, and it really increased his effectiveness a lot.
Yes,
He
because
has a
that's what.
protocol. I mean, he had his own protocol, but then he added the oils,
Yes,
and the results were phenomenal.
and that's I want to add to that because you said something earlier, and I don't want to confuse my people because I'm one of the guys saying, hey, you need to get on an alkaline diet, bring your pH up because that's what Bernardo said. If you have cancer, your pH is probably 5.5. You want to bring it up to 7.2, where cancer can't live.
Absolutely right. If you have cancer, if you don't have cancer,
Right.
there's nothing to worry about.
Right.
But if you do, you want to be on a very low glycemic carbohydrate, meaning it raises blood sugar. Some carbs don't raise blood sugar much. And Dr. Bernardo was very good with that. So a lot of the vegetables don't raise it at all. So
Right.
whatever Dr. Bernardo told you was right.
Yeah, and I've got that exact diet and the protocols from different patients that were of his. So I'm going to come up with that in my own book, because some of his and I basically took a little bit from everybody and then
Yes.
just present it to people and let them whatever resonates with them, because that's
Yeah.
I've learned is to really the person has to be spiritually connected too, because it's mind, body, soul for healing. And so and it's really nice when you get one that is kind of had their third eye is slightly open, or they're a little more awake than the average person, because they can really pick it up quickly.
Yes.
Now, so for this, what you're saying though, for Dr. Bernardo's diet, because you're saying food doesn't change things so much, you're saying that it's the oils, the EFAs that really
Oils are
boost the pH.
critical for cancer prevention, and the ultimate cure of a disease is you never get it. I mean,
Right.
polio, you don't get it. They don't have a cure once you get it to reverse it. The ultimate cure is prevention, and these oils are the ultimate prevention, both heart disease and cancer. And I've got journal articles, peer-reviewed journal articles, that you got to understand, I am counter to every physician typically, unless they've seen my work, when it comes to fish oil. So you can imagine what it gets the reviewers that are PhDs typically in biochemistry. When they see this, they go nuts. And the stuff they come back with, I have to do a rebuttal of it. And one of them, the Journal of American Physicians and Surgeons, was 10 pages. And I won. They published the article. I destroyed everything they said and showed them wrong, which took a while. Took a few months, of course. 10 pages. So it's very, very difficult to get published when you're going against mainstream. And just this year, I've had 2 journal articles come out. One, why fish oil doesn't prevent heart disease. The second one just came out about a month ago. Fish oil can give you cancer. Gives it to you. The journal article came out in the Journal of the National Cancer Society or Association, and it was the fish oil people got the most prostate cancer. And they're going, what the heck is this? So I gave the first explanation in the world why I would expect that. So stop the fish oil. The PEOs are the answer for about $1 a day. If your life, not getting cancer, not getting a heart attack, isn't worth $1 a day, there's nothing more for me to say. Have a nice life. But don't say you weren't warned.
Dr. Joel.
Especially with Obamacare coming in. You better be concerned
Yeah, right.
with these prices.
Dr. Joel Wallach, who's, has the longevity product line, but he was also a veterinarian before he became a physician. And
I just saw him a month or 2 ago in Brazil. We were at the same lecture together.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
Anti-aging of Brazil, yeah. Yeah, the chairman invited me there. I saw him.
Right on. He's a good guy. He was in my movie iCureCancer 1. And but he tells everybody you need 93 essential nutrients, I think is his number. And so it's basically he's got a multivitamin that you can take.
Yes.
But then he says, and take EFAs, because your body can't make them. And that's what you're saying. But the best EFAs are the ones that are not fish oil. They got to be vegan source, folks.
Yes, plant-based. Plant-based is
plant-based.
And they have to be organic. And if they go to my website, they can look at the papers and see what the ratios need to be. Because you can't just take flax oil, for example. This was a big deal years ago with the Budwig diet. Now, years ago, there was not the adulteration of the parent omega-6. They didn't have the adulteration of the cooking oils. It was lack of the omega-3 series. Today, the problem is 99% adulterated omega-6. And remember, it goes in the tissue in each cell as a percentage of what you consume. So if you're at 30%, 40% adulterated oils, and it's real easy to get there. I give some calculations. Just 0.5% adulterated oils overpowers every cell in your body by a factor of like 3,000. So imagine trying to fight 3,000 people. That's the trauma every cell in your body has with 0.5 gram of adulterated oil. And that's only 1% adulteration. It's unbelievable the damage that's getting done. So any margarines, any of these products, you are getting adulterated oils. Unless you're raw foods vegan, you need to be taking a supplement to guarantee you don't have the problem.
Absolutely. Yeah, that should be in every cancer protocol. And the only ones I know offhand is Yes. Do you have is there a name brand? Is Yes doing your new one?
I consult with different companies, but on the air, because it's disease prevention, I can't recommend any specific one. So what I tell people is it has to meet the requirements of multiple oils, 2 to 1 to 2.5 to 1 in favor of parent omega-6, no fish oil, high LA content. What they've done is they've changed the strains now on a lot of the seeds for frying. So it's a lot of what's called oleic acid, which is omega-9, like olive oil. That's a non-essential. So they have oils that they use that are high oleic. You want high
Linolene?
linoleic. There's linoleic and linoleic, yeah, which is the omega-6. Not good at pronouncing this stuff, but you want high parent omega-6, so there's enough magnitude, enough amount of the active ingredient. Because if you get, say, a gram of a high oleic one, it'll be 90% ineffective. So you want high omega-6 content, and it has to be organic, of course, and it has to have GLA. So there's a few specs, and if people have questions, they can go to my website and pop an email. You know, somebody will answer it for them.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's critical. And just how good you feel, people don't have a clue. Remember, you get oxygenated, so you're not exhausted all the time anymore.
Yeah.
You know, even if you're doing nothing, most people are exhausted just, you know, day-to-day stuff. That changes. Now, you're not hyper. It's just if you got tired at 10 o'clock, all of a sudden you're tired at 11 or 11:30 at night. And then you wake up, you know, I get up at 4:30 and start working and go to bed at midnight. It's unbelievable. We even have surgeons taking these oils for more focus, more attention. Kids, there is no ADD, ADHD. There's none of that garbage. Lack of these oils is the cause of virtually everything. Alzheimer's, like I said, the new book, PEO Solution, hits all this and why these are tied to it. But if you think about it, a few fundamental things have to be at the root of everything. Have the strong foundation and the house never falls down. Have a weak foundation, I don't care what the paint color is or what the body looks like. It's the engine. If I have a strong engine, the car is going to run. Doesn't matter what that body looks like. Have a Ferrari engine in there, I could put it in a Toyota. But it has the Ferrari engine, it's going to run. And I concentrate on the fundamentals. And that's what I mean.
Speaking of Ferraris,
Yeah.
well, we had one young lady there that has a Ferrari and it got her headlights cut off. We're speaking about Angelina Jolie.
Yes.
She had her breast cut off just because she thought she had that gene that may mean she's genetically connected to cancer. Although from my research, there's no such thing as genetic cancer. There's habits from your parents you may be doing, but I don't know if there's any genes that connect it. And because a lot of people asked me about that, and they said, what would you say to her? And I said, well, I would say, just see what your pH is. And if it's, say, average at 6.3 or maybe even 7, you're good. And if it ever drops below 6, gets down to 5.5, 5, that's when you can decide whether you want to either cut them up or maybe just go on an alkaline diet and bring your pH back up to 7, and you get to keep your breasts. I mean, that was my opinion. Do you have any thoughts on that whole scenario?
Oh, yeah, because I got barrage too, but it's tragic. The biggest problem is these physicians saying this garbage, and it is garbage, actually think they're right. There is no way on earth with the BRCA gene and whatever else she could have possibly had, there was an 87% chance she'd get cancer. I mean, that is nonsense. The average person with these BRCA genes, that's been all discounted. I told you, the genetic theory, the oncogene thing. I don't know why these physicians are still grabbing onto that. It's just tragic. The average person with these genes does not get cancer. They don't. This is like smoking. Here's the statistics. This is an interesting one because it's called a conditional probability. And I'm trained in this stuff, so I understand it. You smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day for 28 years. 2 packs of cigarettes a day for 28 years. Out of 100 people doing that, how many of those 100 would you think would get lung cancer? I would say 100%. 2 packs a day, what's it, 40 cigarettes a day for 20 years. Of course I got to get lung cancer. The answer is 16%. That means 84% of people living on cigarettes are not getting lung cancer. Therefore, the first thing is smoking cannot be the damn cause of lung cancer. However, and this is where they get you, if you look at the people that have lung cancer, 85% of them smoked. You go, okay, well, you just said it was 16%. Different question. The first one is, what is the probability that you get lung cancer by smoking? Second one, and it's a subtle difference, is given that you have lung cancer, what's the probability you smoked?
Right.
They're very different, and that's what these doctors are looking at with Jolie. And it's absolutely just what you said. If she got the oils, if she was taking the SEAC Concept T and looked at what the pH was, absolutely insane. And these poor women doing this, it's like what, to stop brain cancer, lop off my head? I mean, this is where we are in the 21st century with oncology. If I was one of them, I'd be walking with my head on the floor, looking at in shame. That's what I tell these doctors. I said, if I was one of you guys, I would be looking on the floor in utter embarrassment, because coming from an engineering level, this is beyond pathetic. So they don't even understand statistics. And like I said, I'm sure they think it's 85% chance she really would when it's 15. And that's doing nothing with the oils and the SEAC Concept T. It's a non-issue. It's just tragic what
It's
happens.
unbelievable what's going on with our world. I'm finally coming into maybe a potential way of dealing with this, and I've been hearing it from, like, Gary Knoll talks about it a lot, and certain gurus. We have to go grassroots. We have to go neighborhoody in order, because right now the judges, the oncologists, the lawyers, all the people that are in charge, not all of them are as good as, like, the guys you talk to who are coming to you realizing, oh shit, I was doing it wrong. Most of them don't
They
care.
can't admit, no. You're absolutely correct. They will never admit they're wrong, and they'll never admit they don't know something. It's the rare one that comes to me. But that's all I can work with. I can't give you a solution if you don't think there's a problem. It's like, who the hell do you think you are? So they have to come to me admitting, Brian, I've got a problem. You've answered why. And that's what I get. But if they don't admit a problem, I can't do anything with them. Same thing with people. If you want to listen to your doctor, you're probably going to die. And it always comes back after 5 years. Remember, the radiation makes the inherent cells that can run on fermentation much more virulent, and it takes decades to develop cancer. This is why they put it out 5 years, so when they kill a lot of the stuff, the ones that are the strongest are very small, and 5-10 years later, now they're dominant, and you're dead. That's why it's so bad when it comes back. If it comes back a second time, you're dead. Right. Maybe you'll postpone it a little bit, but you're dead.
And it goes back to those cells. It goes back to those stem cells that you were talking about. Just to clarify for people, stem cell cancer cells are the ones that kill you. The regular cancer cells, that's why tumors shrink drastically when you do the chemo and radiation, because it's killing all those cancer cells, but cancer cells don't hurt you like the cancer stem cells.
It's not a cancer stem cell is a full-blown cell that can only run on glycolysis. It can't use respiration at all with oxygen. So what's the difference between a malignant cancer and a benign cancer? I can never get this out of any physiologists over at the cancer hospitals. And I'm going, you guys don't understand this. It's the degree of the impact of cellular respiration. So it starts at 100%, or 98% is normal, because any cell, again, the muscles especially, can run on glucose short term. So there's always the potential, but it's little. So when you have a cancer cell that's 98%, I can only run on sugar, where it should be 98% running on oxygen, that's what they call a cancer stem cell. They don't even know what the heck it means, but that's what it is. Its metabolism has changed, and it's irreversible. This is why you cannot revert a malignant cancer cell back. You have people saying they do. Harvard did a paper they could. I wrote a rebuttal to it, and of course, I never hear an answer from the MD that wrote the paper because they're on to the next thing. It's impossible. You have to cut it out, kill it, or don't get it. So a full-blown cancer cell is irreversible, and Warburg said that. It's in the book, and he's never been shown wrong in anything. What they did is they gave chemicals, made the respiration go up, but that's like putting a gun to a handicapped kid's head and say, move or I'm going to kill you. You could be probably fully paralyzed and, with that kind of stress. That's the kind of experiment they did. Not fair at all. Not normal conditions. And they just give wrong answers, so they mislead every physician that looks at it. Oh, I can make a cancer cell normal again. No, you can't. If it's fully malignant, no, you can't. The key is, if it's benign, you can make it normal again. It'll never turn cancerous. And even if it is cancerous, as you learned from the book, if it doesn't metastasize, you're not going to die. Unless it was benign on the brainstem where it's shutting down vital functions because it swells. If that puppy doesn't metastasize, even Weinberg at MIT said, 95% chance you don't die. There's no issue if it stays localized. So these oils and the SEACT, worst case, are going to keep that puppy localized.
All right.
It's
And
incredible.
That SEACT, people, if you don't know, a Canadian nurse named Kashasa, I think her name is, got that from the American Indians. And what's ironic is I went and interviewed the Hopi Indians recently, and they didn't even know, have heard of that.
Really?
A couple of indigenous tribes here from America that they don't know medicine that I know that came from them. So I'm hoping to go back there and bring all back to them, because they're getting cancer on their own reservations because the government came in and dug it all up with the plutonium or whatever the radiation stuff is. And instead of cleaning it up properly, they just sprayed it. They have sprinklers to keep the dust down. So they're getting cancer. And I'm like, well, why don't you use SEACT? And they're like, I don't know what that is. I'm like, oh man, we gotta hang. We gotta hang out, because they're on their land poisoning them, and then they're giving their poison, their white man poison medicine to them and killing them right off. Whereas if they were to go back to their own ways, they'd probably be healing better. Plus, with all this new stuff I know about, forget about it. We'll have them on EFAs very soon.
They need it.
Okay, so we got 15 minutes, man. So let's think. What are we missing? Anything? What do you want to get into here?
Just something. I'll give you an answer if I can. I mean, there's just so much.
Okay.
For the past year, I've just been working on PEO solution. But every journal article, 2013, is confirming. There was just another one came out 2 weeks ago. A doctor actually from California sent it to me. Women eating the most peanut butter had the least breast cancer. And of course, the people writing this, the doctors, they have no idea why. Well, what must be in peanut butter? PEOs. And there is the parent omega-6. So I can explain almost any result they get, and their hands are going up. They tell you to eat nuts, for example, because of the omega-3. There's almost no omega-3 in any nut. One has omega-3 in it. I forget which one it does, but it has 5 times more parent omega-6. All the other nuts have no omega-3. So everybody keeps getting misled because the medical community just doesn't know what the heck they're doing. It is a tragedy. It is really, really a tragedy. This is why my charter is to educate the physicians and start with them. Mostly everything we're told is wrong. High carbohydrate diet, that's the cause of diabetes. 2 things. High carbs, meaning glycemic carbs, which put the blood sugar through the roof. Your pancreas is not designed to deal with this, and lack of the oils in the cell membrane, so the insulin can't work. Well, if the insulin can't work, what is that called? Insulin resistance. Gee, that's type 2. Pre-1940, and there were no type 2s, 0. Type 2 diabetes is a created disease by the person unknowingly. And now it's rampant in the world. China is actually more diabetics on a percentage basis growing now than Americans.
Really?
China's become, well, they're following our nutritional recommendations. All the countries do. Italy has a diabetes epidemic. Italy.
Right. Yeah, I heard Brazil kind of went downhill too, because I was there in the early 90s and everybody was healthy. And I was told if I go there now, 20 years later, it's not quite the same because all the American diet came in, which is sad, man. I just got out of that. I just went on a blend fast. Look, man. Had to do that. I didn't work out or nothing. All I did was blend. Take all these vegetables and stuff. And the only thing I was missing was the EFAs, the essential fatty acids.
They fulfill your appetite, not quench it, not curb it. They fulfill it so you're not a human billy goat. That's another thing I talk about because it's another, quote, side effect of the oils. But here's why it does that. Because these oils are so critical and because they're so adulterated, if you don't get them, what can nature do? I got to make the guy hungry. Now you eat another batch of food and you don't get them. Well, what else can I do? Make you hungry again and hope you get these things. So it's eat, crave, eat, crave, eat, crave. I call that the human billy goat syndrome. Then your little nutritionist goes, oh, Ian, you're supposed to eat 6 times a day. Doesn't know any physiology. Doesn't understand a pancreas produces insulin in very small amounts twice a day. You start eating 4 to 6 times a day, you're overstressing the pancreas, you're going to blow it out. It doesn't store it the way people think. You look at the curves 2 times. You eat more than 3 times a day. Get a picture of yourself, get a bullseye on a dartboard and put that picture there and write diabetic time bomb, because you're going to become diabetic. I get this all the time. A lot of athletes become diabetic. High carb diet, they start all the exercise, diabetes. Now, exercise burns sugar. So if you're exercising a lot, you can eat those carbs. You're going to burn them up. But my comment is, I don't want to live in the gym 7 days a week. Don't eat the damn carbs. Right. And that's the trick. You want to work out, that's great. I used to do weightlifting too. I trained with Lee Labrada. He came in second in the Olympia. Yeah. Samir Bannout once, I trained with him a few times too. He was right before Schwarzenegger. He won it. So I'm used to a very, very hardcore reverse pyramid. They would start with the highest weight and go down. And the difference was incredible. Yeah. The difference, they don't know about this. They didn't know about these oils. So the whole bodybuilding, whole nutrition people, sports nutrition, they don't know about this. So that's why PEO Solution is going to hit to this market too. And it's incredible. And it also dispels the myths. Like, what do they tell you in America? 60% carbohydrate diet. What does that translate to? Well, 2,000 calories a day, 60%, that's 1,200. Okay, big deal. Yeah, it is a big deal. How many calories per teaspoon of sugar? 20. 1,200 divided by 20 is 60. That means, Ian, our government, your brilliant nutritionist, your doctor, is telling you to eat 60 teaspoons of sugar a day. You go, okay, that doesn't sound too swift, but tell me more. I'll give you the last thing. How much sugar is in the bloodstream? Less than a teaspoon. So you're overdosing your bloodstream by a factor of 60 to 100. Where the hell's it go? Insulin's a fat storage hormone. This is physiology. Right to body fat. So I just created all this body fat. That's where you got to live in the gym now, or you got to do aerobics, so you got to run, you got to exercise 6 days a week, because I just told you to make yourself a fat pig. Right. And this is why I get so irate with this whole nutritional field. I can't stand it. I don't like it. I'm not in the nutritional field. My joke is nutritionists aren't qualified to talk about nutrition. They don't know anything. They don't know any physiology. I don't even know if they could spell it. Unless they're a PhD in it, and even then it's iffy. Even then it's iffy to get one that understands this the way they need to with the physiology. But again, my systems engineering, I put things together. I connect the dots perfectly. So I can explain the diabetes epidemic in a nutshell. Nobody else can. It's very obvious, and it's simple as heck how to get rid of it. Protein. Protein's bad for the kidneys. No, it isn't. Your kidneys have infinite capability to get rid of, it's called hydrogen ions from protein. There's no issue at all. Goes to ammonia to urea, which is water soluble, spits it out all day. And your urine pH varies all over the place to keep your blood pH constant. If something's going to be constant, something has to be able to vary. So urine pH is completely irrelevant. That's why you go with saliva, like Dr. Bernardo would tell you.
Right.
So it's incredible. Saturated fat. There's no saturated fat in a clogged artery. Every cardiologist I've ever asked, one knew it. Right. Probably heard my work somewhere. The rest, they think there's saturated fat in a clogged artery. This was known in 2001, 1997. High-resolution chromatography was published in Lancet. It's been published. It's been duplicated. You can measure what the heck is in there. There's no saturated fat. So America has got everybody petrified of eating cheese, butter, eggs, all saturated fat. It's no issue at all. What is in the clog? Adulterated omega-6. That's 85% of the clog. Case closed.
Wow.
So everything everybody is taught about this stuff is wrong. Protein causes osteoporosis, leaches the calcium out of the bones. Absolutely insane. The calcium is transported via protein. It's going into the bone. These guys measured it once, and we're backwards. They didn't even understand that calcium was going in, not out. It's just unbelievable. And what gives you a strong bone is protein, collagen, and the oils. They make the bone matrix itself. The minerals are dumped on it. So if you picture a screen, the screen is the bone structure. That's made of protein and oils. The holes in the screen is where you slop on the minerals, like you put some mud on it. That doesn't give the screen any integrity. That makes it where the bone fractures. That's why women taking the most calcium have the most bone fracture. The opposite of what these guys say. But my bone density went up. That's because the x-ray measures higher density any way I can get it. So it's like they're putting concrete on what's supposed to be a flexible bone. Gives you a better bone density. It's the exact opposite of what you want. Every time you turn around, you're told one thing, and the medical science is the opposite. It is tragic. This is why I deal with physicians, because it's complicated, and I don't have the time to talk to individual people. That's why I write so well. I spend a lot of time on the articles, on the reports, and this is all on my website. You can get these reports for nothing. So I hope people will take the time, brianpeskin.com, and it's all there, and it's current. It's up to 2013. I'm one of the few that continue to do very, very relevant journal articles, lectures, and everything I've said only shows itself as more important and as I'm right as time goes on. I've never been reversed in 15 years of leading the field in what's right, and usually it's contrary to what everybody says. I told people not to take calcium supplements 20 years ago, and now it was just this year, calcium supplements, the most heart attacks in women. Why? The last stage of heart disease is calcified plaque. Precipitates out from the calcium supplement you're taking. Nobody needs more calcium. That's not the cause of osteoporosis, by the way, and that's in the textbook of medical physiology. That's lack of vitamin D. It's a different term. It's a different condition. It is not osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is the bone matrix. It has nothing to do with calcium. We just keep getting misled, and it's one thing after another. Salt, told to be on a salt-restricted diet. Just came out this year again. People on the least amount of salt, the most heart attacks. What do you need salt for? Number one, it's the most critical amount of extracellular nutrient. Meaning, if you look at anything, what's floating around, there's more salt than anything. You need it. Number two, you can have 10 times the amount of salt that they say is good for you, or you normally eat in a day. Your kidneys produce something called antidiuretic hormone to stabilize it.
Now,
So
aren't you supposed to?
there's no problem.
Aren't you supposed to? We have to run real quick, but pink Himalayan salt is better than. You don't want white table salt, right?
No, white table salt's awful. It's 99% sodium chloride. What's better than even the Himalayan salt is fleur de sal. That is the sea salt from France, and it flows to the top. That is the best. Different physicians have said the land-based salts have given them problems, but I've never heard anybody say any problem with the sea salt. The other thing is, if you put an elderly person on a salt-restricted diet, you've just given them digestive problems. Why? Because they can't produce the hydrochloric acid from the salt. Where do you think you get the chlorine to make the hydrochloric acid? It's from the salt, and you've just put them on a salt-restrictive diet. That's why all the elderly can't digest anything. It goes on and on and on. We're our own worst enemy. So I hope people will check out the website and learn some of this stuff.
BrianPeskin.com, correct?
Yes, sir.
Brian Peskin. Okay, well, Brian, thank you so much, my friend, for coming back on. I still got to get in front of you with my actual camera so I can put you in my film, iCureCancer 2. But that'll happen.
I hope at the beginning of next year, I should be able to be coming down to California your way.
Oh, perfect. Sounds good. Okay, thank you, Brian Peskin. I appreciate it very much. Have a good night. And thank you, everybody. Thank you. Peace. iCureCancer.com.
Right here, right now, 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 right here, right now.
you had your fight like last time you were on the